There'll be a mechanic out there watching this just cringing hardcore. Improvise, adapt and overcome. Right in front of me I've got the Brown Davis Toyota Hilux long range fuel tank. Now inherently I'm a bit of a tight ass, as you probably already know. So this wasn't my first pick when I was wanting to get more range out of the car, because I only get about 650 fully loaded up out of the car, and if you're going long distance you'll be filling up all the time and all that. So firstly I wanted to put Jerry's on, canopy, drawers, all that stuff with the roof rack, and I thought that's going to be a pain in the ass putting them on the roof, high center of gravity, in the sun, make a bracket up, all that crap, take them off, fill them up, put them in the car non-stop. Then I thought a wheel carrier with a swinging jerry can holder, the money you spend on that, you're still filling up with jerrys. So I ended up here. The Brown Davis steel tank over the plastic, mainly because of the ability to drain it out while it's on the vehicle with the drain plug. It's got baffling throughout the tank for structural integrity and also stop the sloshing of the fuel. That's pretty much the main reason I've ended up with this one. So as you can see, it is a massive unit, increases the fuel capacity by about 87% in this car. So if I can get 1,000 Ks, I'll be happy as Larry. Let's get to put it together and fit it to the vehicle, see what damage we can do. So the first job I've done, I removed the spare wheel from under here to get me more clearance. I'll put the car up a bit higher on some timbers and shock the front wheels. And the first job was disconnecting the filler hoses with some hose clamps up the top there, as you can see. I pulled those off. The next job is marking the drive shaft onto where it attaches to the diff, so I know where it goes when I put it all back together. Now, I need to block off the fuel lines. I don't have any of those little fuel pliers to block it off, so I'm using vice grips and quick grips. So if this works, it'll be amazing. So this might look real sketchy, but it's actually real sketchy. I'm using the car jack. I've notched out a bit of timber under here to take the weight up and down. These are here just as a safety measure in case this for some reason slips out or shit hits the fan good and proper. So I'll lift it, take it down by about 30 mil, and then I'll disconnect the fuel sender, and that way I can actually bring it down further and further and take these packers out safely as it starts to come down to the ground. Now I highly recommend you don't do it this dodgy, but if you're like the rest of the 99% of Australia you just use whatever you got. So I think I fall into that category. I've got the tank dropped down about 70 mil from where it was factory fitted, and this is the fuel sender wiring harness. There's on the factory tank there's like a self-adhesive little rubber flap here. You just got to peel that back and away to free up the clips and the plug on the fuel sender. So that's critical because you do not want to drop the tank with that attached. So now they've got the tank side by side and sitting here, there's a couple of jobs that need to be done before this one goes into the bottom of the car. I need to get the fuel sender unit, clean the crap off it, take it out and place it over on the new tank here. I've got a couple of valve here to go in. I've also got the fast fuel elbow that needs to go into this point here. And once I've loomed up the fuel line down there, I'll put a small amount of diesel in from this old tank here. I'll wash it all around and I'll just use the drain plug to get rid of any of the whatever's in there, swarf, cardboard, rubbish. So there was a small amount of swarf. Actually, there was quite a lot of swarf and rubbish that came out of the back of this. This drain plug had swarf sitting at about around about that hook. It had swarf poking up magnetically onto this about that high up. A lot of it's ended up in the bucket that I drained it out into. So whilst I got the fuel tank removed, I'm going to take the opportunity to put some Corrie over the fuel sender wiring harness and also tidy up some air lines and some cables that are sort of hanging above the fuel tank that weren't tied back originally. So before that all happens, I'll tidy it up and then fit the new tank. I did have to disconnect completely with the rest of the drivetrain just here and move it across out of the way to fit the tank, and then when it's in place I will refit that drivetrain. I've been doing this by myself. I've basically used chocks of timber, lifted it up slightly, jack it up higher, pack more timber under there, and block by block I lifted it up into place until it was finally sitting home. So I'm about 15 mil off that final bracket, and there'll be a bolt that goes through here, through this rear cross member, clamp up there. Probably the main concern this whole time is this is the fuel sender wiring harness. You need to make sure that as you're going up, that is always free and not getting crushed anywhere, because originally I started to squish it in between the cross member there, but I realised quickly and I backed it off and moved it around. As you can see, I'm about 5mm off closing that gap for the final mounting position, then I'll bolt through there.
Now it's time to take down this jack.
So at this stage, the only thing left to do with the tank is to put the two front bolts through the front cross member. They pass through a plate that goes over the top of the cross member, and connecting up the two diesel lines from the fuel tank into the existing factory Toyota lines, heading up into the engine bay. And once that's done, the hardest thing left to do is decide where you're going to put your Brown Davis sticker on your car. So we've had the tank underneath the car now for about we've had the tank underneath the car. She's cooked. She can't film me and sit there. She starts laughing the whole time. So she needs to leave. Let me tell you, we've had the fuel tank underneath the car for about 3 weeks, and we've noticed we get about 1300 k's to a tank, and that's not pushing it all the way down to empty. We get towards empty and then we fill it back up. So the working range is around about 1300 kilometers, which is unreal compared to what we were getting. And the ability that you don't have to put jerrys in, stop and fill them up, or strap them up somewhere else in the car. You just fill it up and you just watch your fuel gauge go down just the way it used to. The only difference is, because we've changed the range of the vehicle, the computer no longer works accurately with the total range of distance of fuel, and also the fuel gauge registers after about 70 litres of diesel has actually left the tank, and you're back to your 70 litre tank. Then your fuel gauge will start registering. It'll start registering that last 70 litres all the way back to zero. So if you're thinking about upgrading the fuel capacity in your four-wheel drive, certainly do your research, figure out whether you want to go plastic, steel, what brand, what make, what's your price range, and then it's not a big deal to put it in yourself. There's a few diesel lines and electronic cable that goes in the top for your control, and that's it. So if you have any questions about the N70 install, I've definitely found a few things that next time I'll do differently, but yeah, feel free to ask. Anyway, catch you later.